My name is Amanda Kapchinski, and I'm a licensed professional counselor working with kids and adolescents and their parents. And I'm here today to talk about depression. One of the most common questions that I get asked from parents is, how can my kid be depressed? They were just like cracking jokes and laughing last night, or they went out with their friends this weekend. And I think that question really comes from maybe like popular culture depictions of depression, this idea that it's almost like Eeyore being followed around by the storm cloud, right? That it's just sadness all the time, and just that typical Eeyore type character. And there definitely are clients that I see who have presentations of depression like that, with sadness all the time, tearfulness, for sure, hopelessness. But depression can be much more three-dimensional than that. So I think one of the most common ways that I see depression in kids and adolescents is with withdrawal. So it could be withdrawal like socially, or like a physical withdrawal, right? Like wanting to be in their room all the time, not going out with friends, or wanting to hang out with other people when maybe previously they did. It could also be a withdrawal from interests, right? Things that used to bring them a lot of joy, sports, hobbies, that kind of thing, and suddenly they don't want to do that anymore. So I think that's maybe the most common. It can also look like anger and irritability. Someone smarter than me once said, anger is the bodyguard to sadness. I think anger is sometimes more accepted. It's a more accepted feeling to feel, especially sort of stereotypically for males and for those teenage boys. Anger is maybe something easier to express, but we see it regardless of age, regardless of gender. The irritability can come up. For sure, changes in sleeping or eating, whether it's too little or too much, or maybe yo-yoing back and forth, that's definitely an indicator that something could be going on. Or like headaches, frequent stomach aches that aren't better explained by some other medical thing. That can sometimes be when the really little kids who don't have the verbal acuity to describe their feelings as well. It can come out like that. For sure, expressing thoughts of self-harm or suicide is definitely an indicator that we've got something going on there. So we've got all of these range of symptoms, and that's not a conclusive list. It can be more than that too. We've got these symptoms going on, and what we need to think about is two things. Maybe some of those feelings, sadness, being overwhelmed, the hopelessness, some of that is just a normal feeling that comes up as a person. And so as parents, what we're looking for is that feeling is persisting over time. Getting back to the first question, maybe they are joking and laughing sometimes, but we see these symptoms coming up nearly every day, almost every day, and it's persisting over time. The second thing that we look out for to diagnose depression, major depressive disorder, is that it's getting in the way of them being the person God created them to be. Because they're kids, one really easy way to measure this is school success, right? You see their grades dropping, or they're unengaged, disengaged from school life, academic life. That's a really big indicator that these symptoms are getting in the way. They might disengage from your family or from your community, and it's getting in the way of them being the person that you know them to be, that you know they were created to be. So those are two ways that you can really figure out that this is a problem for them. And if you notice some of this stuff in your kids, I really just invite you. You can always talk to their pediatrician. That's a great place to start. If you know of some mental health providers in your community, feel free to reach out to them. There's also a national organization called NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, and that's it's a national nonprofit, but they have local chapters, and that's a great place to get more information. They have tons of great resources, but then in that local chapter, they'll have opportunities for support groups, maybe even some other resources that are specific to your area that you can ask for help. And I think I'll end with this last point. Maybe the second most common thing that I hear from parents is, how could my kid be depressed? They have it so good. Their life is so good. They have so many of the things they need and so many of the things they want. they don't have it that bad. How can they be depressed? And if that's where you're at, it's a really hard place to be, right? Because we do, as parents, we try so hard to provide our kids what they need to be successful and to be happy. And it's really painful to see that if it hasn't been enough, or that's at least how it looks from a parent's perspective. And so there could be the temptation, right, to want to give your kids some tough love. We've lived in the world. We kind of know, hey, they have it good, and we want to maybe tell them that. And if that's where you're at, I just invite you to maybe put that tough love advice on the shelf. And I think the most important thing to start with is to just make sure that your child knows that they're heard and that they're loved no matter what. And do your best to see through their 12-year-old perspective or their 8-year-old perspective, because for them it's really real and it really hurts. And so maybe there will be a time when that advice about, the perception of the world and to realize what, they can be grateful for and all of that, there's a place for that. But I think the first step is to really make sure that they know they're heard and that there's room for them to express how it really is for them right now. So yeah, that's my advice to you and my invitation. And of course, don't be ashamed to ask for help. None of us as parents are ever perfect, and we can't be the end all be all to our kids. It takes a community, and there's no shame in asking for help. So just encourage you to reach out.